Okay, so today is kind of a hybrid. I'm going to do a little bit of review, but I'm also going to do a little bit of what the sub didn't teach you. They wrote a note and said, I'm sorry, the smartboard that I had was used in a different teacher's class. I didn't use your smartboard, and so there's a couple things I didn't get to. Well, here's the couple things that you really need to know. And it has to do with log base E. Okay? And let's just start with a regular log. Log base 2 of 4. Do you remember the pattern for that? That's log base 2 of 2 squared. And since the 2's match, the bases are the same, and the answer would be the power. You get where I'm talking about there? So this one would simplify to just what? 2. Because these two are the same, the answer is that. Regular log again, log base 3 of 27. What would that simplify to? 3, because 27 could be written as 3 to the third. Okay, and just so you don't think it's always like to the third, let's say it was that. What's that equal to? 2, because 16 could be written as 4 to the what? Second. All right. And why did I choose 4? Could have written it as a 2 to the something because I wanted the bases to be the same. All right. So now, what about this base E thing? Log base E? Well, if it's log base E, then it's got a shortcut name of ln. So if it's log base E of E to the third, this pattern would still be the same. Do you get that the bases are still the same? They're both E. Whatever the heck E is, they're the same. So what's the answer to this one? 3. Because these are the same, the answer's still there. But what is E? E is 2.718. 2.718 is a number that would, it's kind of like pi. Do you know pi really isn't 3.14? It goes on forever and never repeats. E does the same thing. It's a number that has to do with how things occur in nature. They have found that it, for some reason, really approximates well things like populations. And so it's just a new number like pi that you can get used to. We aren't really telling you what's super special about E yet. There is, I could spend literally a day showing you all these cool things that E can do. But all I really need you to know is that E is just a number. Just like pi is a number. Pi is 3.14. E is a number. It's 2.718 approximately. And that's rounding. But so if I add log base 2.718 of 2.718 to the third, as long as these were the same, the answer is still a power. See if you were really processing that and tell me what that answer is. It is 7. What? How? That looks totally different. That's because ln means log base E. And now can you see that the two E's match up? So what did I say that was really important? E is a number like pi. Secondly, whenever you see ln, that means log base E. So if I say ln 5, that means log base E of 5. Do I know what that is? Not off the top of my head, but I could use the calculator. Do you know what button I would use? There's not a log base E button, but there is an ln button, and you'd hit ln 5. And it means log base E of 5. There, you know about all you need to know about the E. It's just a different base. It's a number like pi that goes on forever. And the main thing is that you know that ln and log base E mean the same thing. All right. So here's a couple questions I want to remind you that are the main meat of what we did, the hardest stuff in logs, and that had to do with rewrites. Do you remember that if I say 5 to the x equals 9, that there is no nice number for x that would work? So we have to use logs. Can you write this as a log? This is the most important kind. All right? If you can't write this as a log, I'm afraid for you for Friday's test. But we do have today and tomorrow to review. All right. Then I'm going to give you one more. solve for x. And the first thing I did on this kind, the bottom kind, is I said simplify it if you can. Hint, you got to do something with this too. Then simplify it and then rewrite and then solve it. All right, you guys work on that for a second. I'll be back after I pause. Okay, so 5 to the x equals 9. Log base 5 of 9 equals x. Notice I did not go in order. I did not put the 5 and then the x and then the 9. I jumped back and forth. All right, and then a calculator can do this. If you don't know how to put it in yet, you would put in, if you don't know the hard way, the easy way that works for everybody is log 9 divided by log 5. That would work for anybody on the test. Okay, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to have calculators on this test. I'm going to double check that. We do not have calculators on this test. How? Because you have only easy ones. Meaning, like for instance, what if I'd have said log base 5 of 25? Would you be able to do that? You have to be able to do that in your head. Well, what would that be? If it had been 25, then this would be 5 squared. And so what's the answer really then? 2. Okay. All right. Looking at this next one. Again, no calculator needed. I can solve this thing. And if it's really complicated at the end, I guess you'd have to leave it as simplified as you could. I'm dividing by 2 on both sides. And by the way, could I have put this 2 as a squared right there? Do you remember that you can do that? All right. Now, I actually think it'd be easier to just divide by 2 on both sides. But just so you know, anything that's in the front here could be put up as a power up there. All right. So back to this. Now I can do the rewrite. 3 to the power of that is equal to x minus 1. And now I am so close. Isn't x almost alone? You might be like, but what about the other thing? I'm not worried about it right now. I'm just trying to get x alone. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. And x is alone. Now I got to see if I can simplify that any further. The only other way you could write that is the square root of 3. Nope, that's the cube root. Sorry. Square root of 3 to the third plus 1. You could either have left it this way or this way. Do you get, I don't expect you to know what the square root of 3 to the third is. What if it had been the square root of 9? Yeah, you should have been able to do that then. But since it's a nasty number, like 3, I can't do the square root of 3. All right, let's do one more like that. Solve. Hint, simplify it if you can, and you can. Then rewrite, then solve. I like to think of this as SRS. That was my mom's initials, Sally Reed Server. SRS stands for, not Sally Reed Server, but simplify, rewrite it, and then solve it. And simplify can happen anytime, but the sooner the better. If you notice something to simplify sooner, it's easier. So simplify it, rewrite it, maybe even simplify it again, and then solve it, meaning get x alone. So, sir, first step, what do you think? Divide by, and once I got the 5 divided on both sides, it's a little simpler. Log base x plus 1 of 2 equals 3. Then comes the rewrite part. In the back row, in the corner, that's you. You're not taking an R4, so to the third equals 2. Very nice. You did a rewrite perfectly. Now, to get x alone, yes, question? Don't think that's a valid question. Were calculators allowed in that test? Let me find out. Calculators were allowed on that test. Yes, you can use a calculator. Okay. I am going to now put it to the power of 1/3. Once again, do you think that I'd expect you to find the weird decimal that is 2 to the 1/3? No. So I just want you to know that that cancels that. I'm waiting for that to go away. There we go. And I have x plus 1 equals 2 to the 1/3, which I'm going to have to carry around for the rest of the problem because I don't know what it is. On the test, that's more likely to have been like a 27. Do you get, you could have found the third root of 27? It would have been 3. 3 times 3 times 3 makes 27. Or the third root of 8. You know what I mean? If this had been an 8, could you have found that the answer was 2? Okay. So we're just going to leave it as 2 to the 1/3. And then minus 1. And there it is. Because there's no calculator on this test. That's what you'd do. What if there was a calculator? Well, then you just type in 2 to the power of 1/3. It'd be some weird decimal. Subtract 1. Okay. And then the last thing that I want to make sure I cover today is graphing. So whatever you were doing, I'd recommend getting a blank Notability page ready and then try to graph this. For log base 2 of x plus 1. XY chart is your best friend. Give me a number that works nice. Yes, sir. How did you know 1 would work nice? And if you got these bases to match, it would be really good, right? Okay, so we put a 1 here, and I'll let everybody else figure out what you'd get for your grand total once you stuck in a 1. Then find a total of 3 points and the asymptote. I'm just going to remind you, log graphs generally look like that. Now this one's been changed a little bit. This one's been moved and flipped. So, not to say it's flipped. It's been moved anyway and stretched. So it may not look exactly like that anymore, but that's how they start. I said a log is a tree that was blown over in the wind. So it's like a tree that's been blown over. It's a log graph. Okay. Anyway, there was the parent. It's a hint on what the graph kind of looks like. And now find 3 points and the asymptote. I'm going to pause while you give that one a try. Okay. You put in a 1. That becomes a 2. Log base 2 of 2 is 1. Can I just put a 1? Why isn't it 1? Because there's a 4 in front. 4 times the 1 makes 4. Okay, then I'm going to put in something else that would be smart. I'm going to put in a 3. Because 3 plus 1 makes 4. Why is that smart? 4 log base 2 of 4 works out really nice. Put in a 3, and I got this. And then that part is 2, because that's really 2 squared. And so it's 2 times 4 makes 8. 3 comma 8. And one last point. Can anybody tell me how I could have put in something to make this have become a fraction? Did anybody do that? What'd you do, Kitty? All right. To put in negative 1/2, negative 1/2, this becomes 1/2. And then why is that special, KT? If this is 1/2. Yes. So then the answer becomes log base 2 of 2 to the negative 1. Very nice. And then that becomes negative 1 times the 4, which makes negative 4. That would have been an awesome point. Now, not many people do that. We can just find one more that's like 8. How can I make the whole argument part 8? If I made the x 7. How many of you chose 7? That would be a good point to choose also. Nobody thought of that? All right. Because 7 plus 1 makes 8. Why is that good? Because that's 2 to the 3rd. And that makes this whole thing 3 times 4 makes 12. So 7 goes with 12. You didn't have to have that point, but you had to have 3 points. If you didn't have 3 points, you wouldn't have got credit. Last thought, where the heck did the asymptote go? Well, in the first place, the asymptote was here. Do you get that I moved it by having that plus 1 on the inside? That moved the asymptote to the right 1. So that asymptote now moves here. Get what just happened there? It's whatever makes this equal 0. That's another way to say it. So if I put in a negative 1, I get the asymptote. Another way to say that is x equals negative 1 is the asymptote. It's the, did I screw that up? I moved to the right. You're right, it's left. Dang it. Okay. So then it's x equals negative 1. So whatever makes the inside 0. So negative 1. So negative 1 is the asymptote. I just had the pink line in the wrong spot. Okay, then final answer, if I graph all these points, over 3 up 8, over 1 up 4, negative a half, negative 4, and I'm going to draw a line through it in green, say generally, it looks like that. The green line, I kind of tried to call out my 3 points I graphed. 7, 12 should be up higher, so maybe I turned a little too sharp. Maybe I should have a point like there. Okay, there's the graphing one. Your homework for tonight is a review worksheet. And what we're going to do, since we would theoretically be testing tomorrow, but I was afraid it was going to be just a little too much after I heard that the sub hadn't covered the E stuff. I wanted to make sure I give you time for that. And today's a short day, too. You add those two things together, sub didn't cover everything, and it's a short day, and the test was tomorrow. Just felt like it was a bad call. So I moved it to Friday. So you have plenty of time. I'm hoping that means I get mostly A's, because you just have to do half the review tonight. If you have questions, you can ask them tomorrow, and then you'll do half the review tomorrow night, and the test is Friday. So tonight, do the evens. If you've already done other ones, it won't hurt, because they're going to just do them the next day. You know what I mean? It's okay if you worked ahead, because all you have to do is do the evens for tonight and the odds for tomorrow night. Would you read me the first even one on the homework? Okay. SRS. Simplify, rewrite, solve. I don't see any way to simplify this. If I could like make this into a 1/4, I would. If I needed to subtract something on both sides, I could. Although, is this x plus 3 in parentheses? Oh, okay, good. Just making sure, because otherwise I could have subtracted 3 the way it was, but nope, can't subtract 3 now, so no simplifying. Then it's a rewrite. 1/4 to the negative 1/2. This is why it has no calculators, because all the numbers work out nice. You can do the square root of 4? Do you get that the negative flips the 1/4 and makes it a 4? So then it's just 4, square root of that is 2. Final answer is that all simplifies to 2. Cool. I'm going to finish my rewrite. This to the that, and then I come back here. Equals x plus 3. 2 equals x plus 3. Well, that makes it pretty obvious. That must be negative 1 if I subtract 3 from both sides. Now, some people say, but wait, Mr. Server, you said that you could never have negative answers. Not really true. What I said is you can't have a negative base or a negative argument. And when you put negative 1 in here, does the whole argument become negative? No. Negative 1 can go in there safely. And some of you maybe didn't even think to check. I hope you think to check, because on the test, very likely there'll be one where your answer comes out, and when you put it back in, you've made a negative base or a negative argument, and it would be extraneous. But this one was safe. I checked it, I put it right here, and I saw that my base stayed positive and my argument stayed positive. So I was safe. So this is the right answer. Okay, now you started on your homework. All you got to do is the evens tonight. Next, you do the odds. Any last questions? Okay, that's all I have for you for the video for today.